You missed one payment, just one, and right now you are telling yourself it is fine, that you will catch it next month. That one payment cannot possibly derail everything. And maybe you are right. But here is what nobody tells you about that one missed payment. It is not just a financial event. It is the first step on a staircase that millions of Americans have walked down, one step at a time, each one feeling manageable right until the moment it is not. Here is the number that should put this in perspective. According to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, auto loan delinquencies in America recently hit their highest level in over a decade, with millions of borrowers behind on car payments at any given moment. This is not a fringe problem. This is not something happening only to people who made reckless decisions. This is happening to people who had a plan, who had a budget, who thought they had it handled, right up until life did what life does. And the reason so many people end up at the bottom of that staircase is not because they did not care. It is because at every single step, the next one down felt like the only option available. Nobody skips straight to the bottom. You get walked there, one seemingly reasonable decision at a time, by a system that is not designed with your best interests at the center of it. This video is going to walk you through every single level of auto loan trouble, from that first missed payment all the way to voluntary surrender, so that wherever you are right now on that staircase, you know exactly what is happening, what comes next, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it before the next step down becomes inevitable. Let us start at the top. Day one of a missed payment. You woke up, the payment did not go through, and a quiet anxiety settled into your chest that you have been trying to push down ever since. Here is what is actually happening on the lender's side of this equation that most borrowers never see. The moment your payment misses its due date, an internal clock starts ticking inside your lender's system. You are not yet in serious trouble, but you are now being watched in a way you were not yesterday. Most lenders have a grace period of anywhere from 10 to 15 days before they report anything or charge a late fee. That window is not generosity. It is a built-in buffer that exists partly because lenders know that some percentage of late payments are simply logistical, a forgotten transfer, a paycheck that landed a day late. Use that window. Call your lender before they call you, because the entire tone of this process changes dramatically depending on whether you are the one reaching out first. Here is something crucial that most people in financial stress do not know. Lenders have far more flexibility in those early days than they will ever advertise publicly. Hardship programs, payment deferrals, due date adjustments, all of these exist and are available at this stage in ways they simply are not once you have crossed further into delinquency. But accessing them requires one thing that financial stress makes psychologically very difficult: picking up the phone and having the conversation before you feel ready to have it. Financial avoidance, the very human tendency to ignore a problem hoping it resolves itself, is the single most expensive behavior pattern in personal finance. Not overspending, not bad investments, avoidance. Because avoidance does not pause the staircase. It just means you are descending it without a handrail. Now here is where things start to shift. 30 days past due. This is the first genuinely significant threshold, and this is the moment most people still think is recoverable with minimal damage. It is recoverable, but something has already happened that cannot be undone, and understanding exactly what that is and what it costs you is what we are covering next. 30 days past due, and your lender has just done something you cannot take back. They reported your missed payment to the credit bureaus. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. All three now have a record of this moment sitting in your file, and that record is going to stay there for 7 years regardless of what you do next. Not 7 months, 7 years. That single 30-day mark is the line between a problem you can resolve quietly and a problem that follows you to your next apartment application, your next job background check, your next attempt to refinance anything in your financial life. Here is what that actually costs in real numbers. According to credit scoring research, a single 30-day late payment can drop a good credit score by anywhere from 60 to 110 points, depending on your starting position and the overall health of your credit profile. If your score was sitting at 720 before this happened, you may now be looking at a score in the 6s, potentially pushed out of the range that qualifies you for favorable interest rates on anything else you need to finance in the next several years. One missed payment, one report, decades of careful credit building, meaningfully set back in a single month. But here is what matters more than the score drop right now. You are still in a window where the trajectory of this situation is genuinely within your control. 60 days past due is where that starts to change. And the psychological shift that happens in most borrowers between 30 and 60 days is one of the most financially dangerous patterns in the entire landscape of auto loan trouble. Here is what it looks like from the inside. At 30 days, the anxiety is sharp and loud. You are stressed. You want to fix it, but fixing it feels overwhelming because catching up means paying the missed payment plus the current one, and if the money were that available, you would not have missed the first payment. So the brain does something very human. It rationalizes. It tells you that since you are already behind, since the damage is already done, since one more month cannot possibly make it that much worse, waiting just a little longer feels almost logical. This rationalization is the staircase doing its most dangerous work, because 60 days past due is a completely different situation than 30, in ways that are not just incremental but structural. At 60 days, your lender's internal classification of your account changes. You are no longer a late borrower. You are now a delinquent borrower. That distinction matters because it triggers a different set of internal protocols on the lender's side. Collection activity intensifies. The calls become more frequent and more structured. A dedicated collections department, rather than a general customer service team, may now be handling your account. And the options available to you, while still real, are narrowing in ways that were not true at 30 days. This is also the window where your insurance situation deserves urgent attention, because here is something most borrowers in this position have never considered. If your lender is a lien holder on your vehicle, which they are for any financed car, many loan agreements contain clauses that interact with your insurance requirements in ways that can compound your troubles significantly if you have allowed your coverage to lapse during financial stress. A repossession on an uninsured vehicle can trigger financial consequences that extend far beyond the loan itself. Now we arrive at 90 days past due. And this is the threshold that changes everything. Because at 90 days, your lender has a decision to make about your account. And the options they are weighing are not the ones you want them to be weighing. Charge off. Repossession. These are no longer distant worst-case scenarios. They are now active considerations, sitting on someone's desk with your name on the file. Here is what repossession actually looks like in practice, because most people carry a version of it in their head that is either far more dramatic or far less serious than the reality. And understanding exactly what it is, how it happens, and what it does to your financial life in the months and years after is the difference between making an informed decision and being blindsided by a process that is moving faster than you realize. That is exactly where we are going next. Repossession in America does not look the way it does in the movies. There is no dramatic standoff, no warning knock on the door the night before. In most states, your lender has the legal right to repossess your vehicle the moment you are in default, which in most loan agreements means as little as one missed payment, without any court order, without any advance notice to you whatsoever. You could wake up tomorrow morning, walk outside, and the car is simply gone. Legally, quietly, without anyone asking your permission first. Here is the part that genuinely shocks most people when they learn it for the first time. Repossession is not the end of your financial obligation to the lender. It is often just the beginning of a new and more complicated one. Here is how it works. Once your vehicle is repossessed, the lender sells it, almost always at a wholesale auction, almost always for significantly less than its actual market value. Whatever that auction price is gets applied to your remaining loan balance. The difference between what you still owed and what the car sold for is called the deficiency balance, and that deficiency balance is still legally yours to pay. According to consumer finance research, the average deficiency balance after auto repossession in America sits in the thousands of dollars, sometimes reaching into 5 figures depending on how far underwater the loan was. So not only have you lost the car, you now owe money on a car you no longer have, to a lender who is now far less interested in working with you than they were at any earlier stage of this process. That deficiency balance can be sent to collections, resulting in an additional negative entry on your credit report, or the lender can pursue a court judgment against you, which opens the door to wage garnishment in states where that is permitted. This is the bottom of the staircase for most people. But there is one more step that sits just above it, one that many borrowers in serious trouble never even know is available to them, and it is the option that changes the entire equation if you can reach it in time: voluntary surrender. Here is what voluntary surrender actually is, because it is widely misunderstood. Voluntary surrender means you contact your lender, tell them you can no longer maintain the payments, and arrange to return the vehicle yourself rather than waiting for them to come and take it. And here is why this distinction matters far more than most people realize. The credit reporting outcome of a voluntary surrender and an involuntary repossession are broadly similar. Both are serious negative marks, but the difference lies in everything surrounding that mark. With voluntary surrender, You control the timing. You control the condition of the vehicle at return. You demonstrate to the lender a level of cooperation and good faith that can, in some cases, influence how aggressively they pursue the deficiency balance afterward. Some lenders will negotiate the deficiency balance more favorably with a borrower who surrendered voluntarily versus one whose vehicle had to be tracked and seized. More importantly, voluntary surrender is a psychological decision as much as a financial one. It is the moment you stop letting the situation happen to you and start making a deliberate, informed choice about how this chapter ends. That shift, from passive to active, from avoidance to engagement, is the single most important move available to anyone at any level of this staircase. So here is the complete picture this video has been building toward. The staircase from first missed payment to voluntary surrender is not a cliff. It is a series of steps, each one with options, each one with windows of intervention that close progressively as you descend. At day 1, you have maximum options and maximum leverage. At 30 days, you have a credit impact but still significant flexibility. At 60 days, the options are narrowing but still real. At 90 days, the lender's patience is expiring and the timeline is accelerating. And at the bottom, whether voluntary or involuntary, the vehicle is gone, but the financial story is not over. Because deficiency balances, credit rebuilding, and the decisions you make in the aftermath will continue shaping your financial life for years. The single most expensive thing you can do at any point on this staircase is nothing. Avoidance is not a pause button, it is an accelerator. Every day of silence is a day the lender's options expand and yours contract. Every phone call you make before they make one to you changes the dynamic of this entire process in ways that are invisible but real and consequential. If this video gave you clarity on a situation you have been avoiding thinking about, subscribe, because we break down the financial realities most people only discover when they are already inside them. Drop a like if this helped you understand something that felt confusing or overwhelming before you watched it. And if you know someone quietly stressed about a car payment situation right now, send them this video. The information in it might save them from a step down they did not have to take.